I considered giving up at that point. And I thought, maybe I should just sell the van, buy a car, and get a tent and just like car camp the rest of the way in like a newer vehicle and just forget about all of this.
What is up, all you beautiful souls? Caleb Kwest here along with my van Esperanza, and wow, we are so excited to bring you today's story. As you know, we roam around meeting people and sharing those stories with you because wow, we can get so much great inspiration, motivation, and learn a bit from them. And today is no different. Amanda is a rad girl who has persevered through some really difficult times, and because of that, she's been able to share with us some really great tips on how we can travel as solo van lifers, but specifically for ladies, but we can all glean some really great information from this. So stick around, and there's 3 extra tips at the end, so make sure to check those out, and thank you guys for being here. We really do appreciate it.
Hi, I'm Amanda, and I have been traveling solo in my van, Indy, for officially 5 weeks now. Going into this journey as a solo female traveler, obviously myself and my friends and family were concerned for my safety. How are you going to stay safe? And I honestly was terrified at first, which I think most women that I know in vans all go through that trial period in the beginning where you're scared, and then you realize that most people in the world are good people, and you're usually in a place where you do end up feeling safe, and it's just kind of like getting over that hump. The van life was so hard in the beginning. I felt like everything that could have gone wrong felt like it went wrong. Even just before I left, I actually got COVID and had to self-quarantine for 2 weeks, which pushed back me leaving on this trip. When I did start it, the very first day I was driving through Texas, I was in the middle of nowhere and my tire exploded and I didn't have the right stuff to change it. So that was my first defeat. My windshield cracked when I was in California and I had to get it replaced. My brakes failed because I drove down a mountain road riding my brakes not in a lower gear and burnt out the brake system. So it was just one thing after the next. I cried every single day that I drove the van because I was used to driving a small car, and now I'm driving this huge sailboat, and you can feel everything, and the wind is pushing me on the road, and I'm scared, and I can't drive as fast as everyone because Indy's heavy, so people are passing me, and it was just I remember thinking, I can't do this. I can't do the driving part. It's too hard for me, and I'm scared that something else is going to happen to the van again, and I'm going to break down somewhere. So actually, when I was in Los Angeles, and all of those things had happened already, I considered giving up at that point. And I thought, maybe I should just sell the van, buy a car, and get a tent and just car camp the rest of the way in a newer vehicle and just forget about all of this. And I reached out to a couple of my friends, something happens wrong every single day. I feel like I'm on the wrong path. Universe, what am I doing wrong? All these things keep happening. I felt like I was swimming upstream. And I asked for a sign, please give me a sign if I'm on the right path or not. And I had one particular friend reach out to me after I asked for a sign, and he said, how much money have you put into it so far, fixing everything? And I told him, and he said, you're good, keep going. Trust me, I've been through this, just do it. And that friend connected me to another friend who connected me to an amazing group of people, and it just abundance just flowed in after I surrendered and committed to it and just decided that I was gonna keep going. If I had to choose one word to define this journey for me this year, it would be surrender. Surrender has been the biggest lesson. Know that things are gonna go wrong, quote unquote, that we say are wrong, and just surrendering to that being part of the experience and part of the learning. And now I know to use a lower gear, and now I know that I should have checked my tires before I left, and just sort of shifting the way that you're perceiving these problems and surrendering to how things are going. And maybe you were going to hike to a waterfall that day and you spent the day in the auto shop, and not being upset about that and just being thankful that you're on this journey. Some days I'm going to not get to do what I wanted and I'm going to go to the shop, and that's part of it. But I just camped next to this gorgeous waterfall that a hotel could have never brought me to, and that's worth me getting my brakes fixed today. I had always wanted to take time off to travel, but I kept pushing it back, right? Everyone makes excuses oh, I need to have this much money saved, or I need to do this thing first, and then I'll do that thing that I really want. And that was me. I just kept pushing it back. And then my stepdad of 20 years, so essentially my dad my whole life, got pancreatic cancer in November last year. And they told him he had about 6 months to live. And I knew then that I needed to do what I wanted to do now. Life isn't forever. That definitely lit a fire under my desire to do this trip and made me quit my job sooner to pursue this. And that was a huge inspiration actually for this road trip. One of my favorite photos of him is in a camper van fishing. So yeah, I always just imagine that he's with me in the van, or watching over me and Indy on our journey. And when something happens, it's it's okay, you're good, it's fine, don't worry about it. So he's been a big inspiration for this trip for me. Before getting a van, I backpacked a lot internationally. So I would stay in hostels and take public transportation. And I would honestly say that that's a lot easier, but hard things are more rewarding. So when you're backpacking, you're only responsible for your backpack, and you can keep track of that pretty easily. When you're living in a van, your home, your entire home is your responsibility. If something happens to your van, that's everything that you have. So there's that added factor of okay, I really have to take care of Indy and make sure that she's okay, because that's my whole home. But it's also so much sweeter in the sense of your home is with you everywhere you go, and someone needs something, or you want to change clothes because the weather changed, you're oh, I'll just go to my house real quick and change, or get whatever I need, and you have it anywhere you are. So it's the give and take of doing something that's more difficult, but you're rewarded for that infinitely. So I have people ask me all the time, oh, where are you going to be next month? Where are all the places that you're going? And I honestly didn't plan out specific places at all, except for I knew that I wanted to end up at Yellowstone, and that was kind of my only thing, and everything leading up to that was open. And that's been so amazing, because you never know who you're going to meet or what's going to happen, and you meet this awesome group of people, and they tell you about a waterfall you didn't know about, and hey, do you want to camp with us and hike there tomorrow? And if you have this really rigid oh, I need to go to this place and this place and this place, you're gonna miss out on the stuff that is so good you couldn't even have thought that might come up. So I think that being flexible and going with the flow is super key in a van, not only for the fun stuff, but for the problems that come up too, right? If you have all these deadlines and schedules, and then you have a breakdown with your vehicle, you're gonna miss something. And so if you just leave it open and go with the flow, it's much sweeter that way, and you really will get so much more out of it if you're just living in the moment and going with what's happening naturally. Totally do weird things in the van with Indy. When you're by yourself for hours and hours on end, you just are talking to yourself, and I talk to Indy all the time. And there's a certain spot on the dash where I always put my hand and I tell Indy how much I love her, and I thank her every day that we drive. I say we're going to Yellowstone that day, and I say, thank you, Indy, for taking us safely to Yellowstone, giving her thanks before we even get there. And I also envision that we have like a guardian angel who drives with us, like on a white carpet over the van, and there's like a guardian angel with red hair, and she like jams out to the music that we're listening to, and I picture her like watching over Indy and I as we're traveling. And yeah, I definitely never did that in my car before. But so far it's working. So before I left, I had these huge fears of horrific breakdowns that, like, I don't know, my engine explodes on the freeway and then I get into this horrible car accident. So I thought that if something went wrong with the van, that meant I was going to get hurt physically. And so many things have gone wrong with the van and nothing physically has ever happened. You get so used to driving your vehicle that you feel when any little thing feels different. And if you just pay attention and go and get it looked at right away, like, the car is going to be good 99.9% of the time. So just paying attention, feeling when something feels different and going and get it looked at versus like ignoring that problem. Nothing, like every issue that I've run into has been like, oh, we can just pull over off the side of the road and go to a shop and get it fixed, and it's been fine. Take the offers that are given to you through friends who want to help you. I feel like as a solo female traveler, it's been so incredible how many people have offered me a place to park my van. Like, I share my travels on social media, and then people reach out to me who are my friends and say, oh, my aunt lives in San Francisco and she said that you could park your van outside of her house when she's there. I say yes to those people, because people who are willing to let you park on their property are cool people already, if they're willing to like open up their home to you. So I've said yes to every time somebody says, oh yeah, I know someone who lives in this city and you can park at their house there, and that's led to friendships that will last a lifetime for me as well. And then that person probably knows someone in the area at your next stop. And also not being afraid to reach out. Sometimes I don't have a place and I'll post online, hey, does anyone know someone in Portland who I can park my van in front of their house? And you'd be surprised how much people want to help a solo female traveler. The world wants you to be safe, so everyone feels very protective of you. Like, are you okay? Do you need anything? Like, it's been really beautiful to see how much people care about my journey and my safety and like want to help in any way that they can. Making friends on the road has been a really interesting experience, actually, because it's been quite different from the start to now. In the beginning, it felt super lonely, and I was kind of bummed out, like, man, the person I bought the van from was like, yeah, van life just like wasn't as great as I thought it would be. And then like I kind of felt that way at first, and I was like, man, maybe he was right. Like, it's not that cool. I'm so lonely, and like I'm such a people person. And then it all came with like me surrendering and not giving up, that everything just started to flow in abundance. And part of that was friendship. Like, I stayed at a friend's house who a friend had recommended, like, oh, you can park at my friend's house here. Made friends with that person, who introduced me to other people who I now consider like family. And so in the beginning, no, like I didn't feel like it was easy to make friends with people. I felt like, here I am at this camp spot and there's a family over there, and I don't know if is it weird if I go talk to them? And then when I just like went with the flow of like, sure, I'll meet this person and I'll go to this thing, and just started saying yes, then it was like I met the coolest people that I've ever met in my whole life. Experience has definitely made me want to live more simply in terms of the material world. So I realized I don't need that much to be, I'm so happy right now, and I don't have a space that I can even stand up in or cook inside of, and I'm like, wow, that's awesome. I'm so full and happy in my little van. I would say, like, my advice to other solo female travelers, the top 3 things to stay safe in my experience have been, 1, picking a place with other people there camping, so like maybe you don't do the hard to reach middle of nowhere camp spots unless you are meeting up with friends at a certain, like you save that for your groups and you go to places where there's other families and stuff camping, because that's like a really safe environment. Two, your communication with the outside world, right? Like have a friend or a parent who you are in communication with who knows where you're going. And the next level of that communication could even be like, I have a Garmin outreach device that in an emergency situation with no cell service, I could send a message to anyone in my family. If my car broke down and I don't have phone service, I have a way I can reach to the outside world regardless of where I am. That's a really huge one. Thirdly, trusting your instinct, right? Like you get somewhere and you're parked next to someone and you're getting a weird vibe from them, move somewhere else, and just going with your gut and like trusting that like, this feels a little bit sketchy, like I'm gonna go somewhere that feels more safe to me. Thank you guys so much for listening to my story and letting me share with you. And this is actually for a great cause. I would like to support sustainable community farming. So for this week, if you buy these shorts or any of the other stuff on the website through the link below, 20% of the proceeds are going to go to Roots for Change, which is a community garden in Las Vegas that I support, and they bring in kids from an underprivileged community in Las Vegas and teach them how to do sustainable farming and gardening so that they can make and create their own food. And if you like this video and what you're seeing, please follow, subscribe, like, and if you would like to follow Indy and I's journey on Instagram, you can do that at amandamarie.panda. And all of these links and information are in the comments below. And again, thanks for letting me share with you.